Hello, Full House fans. I hope you're having a great summer. And just like Full House used to do, Full House Rewind is going into a summer rewind. That's right, a Full House Rewind. And we're going to start it off where it all began, with my interview with Full House creator Jeff Franklin. We'll be back in the fall with a lot more episodes. And thank you for watching the show on our Full House Rewind YouTube channel, where we just topped over 2 million views. Have a great summer. I'll be checking in with you.
This is a PodCo original.
Welcome to the very first episode of Full House Rewind. I'm your host, Dave Coulier. Jeff Franklin is our guest on the show today, and he'll be joining us shortly. This show is as much about Full House as it is about you, the fans. Full House has been on the air since we premiered on ABC in 1987. The show went on to worldwide syndication in over 100 countries and is now streaming everywhere on planet Earth. Here's something else that you might find interesting, maybe even a little weird. I have never watched Full House. I know. So this is going to be an eye-opening journey for me as I travel through each episode with you. There's going to be so many memories and stories, and I hope to share all of them with you. Behind the scenes, on the stage at Lorimar Studios and Warner Brothers. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have some very special guests along the way. But really, this show is for you, the Full House audience, who we love so dearly. And with that, let's get to the show. Oh, somebody's here.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, look, it's my buddy Comet. What's going on, buddy?
Can I just say, this is the greatest lawn out here? I could lay under that tree for hours. And you know what else? I saw a squirrel.
That's great, Comet.
Well, I just wanted to say congratulations on the new show. I'm probably going to stop by every day. Okay, love you, Dave.
Well, thank you, Comet. I love you too. Today, we're going to be talking about the pilot episode, also known as our very first episode. Here's what it says about our very first episode on IMDb. When Danny Tanner's wife, Pamela, is killed in an auto accident, he finds himself left all alone to raise his 3 daughters, DJ, Stephanie, and baby Michelle. Fortunately, Danny's hair-obsessed rock star brother-in-law, Jesse Cochran, along with Danny's flamboyant, cartoon-loving friend Joey Gladstone, move in to help Danny raise his girls. On the first day, DJ runs away, and Jesse and Joey find extreme difficulty and anxiety in changing Michelle. There's some very funny scenes in the pilot. The scene where Joey and Jesse change Michelle's diaper, and the scene where Stephanie is hanging from the drapes in the girls' room. We'd like to hear what you think about the pilot episode, so just shoot us an email at fullhouserewind@podco.us.
You've got messages.
Oh, we're already getting messages on our 1990s answering machine.
Hey, Dave, it's me, Bullwinkle. And me, Rocket J. Squirrel. Congratulations on your new show. And now, a little poem. Spider, spider on the wall, don't you have any brains at all? Don't you see the wall's just been plastered? Don't you see that, you little Bullwinkle? Spider, I wasn't going to say it. Yes, you were. In fact, there's a couple of times.
Well, that was nice. Now, as I was saying...
You've got messages.
Oh, another message.
Hey, Dave, it's me, Scooby-Doo. Congratulations on your new show.
Wow, Scooby-Doo, that's really cool.
Hey, Dave?
Yes, Comet?
Was that Scooby-Doo?
Sure was.
Is he coming over to play with me?
Maybe one of these days.
Okay, love you, Dave.
I love you too, Comet. And I love our very first special guest, Jeff Franklin. Full House would not have happened without this guy because he's the creator of Full House. He's our Full House leader, captain of the ship, and I get to call him a really close friend and a brother. Here's what Jeff Franklin looked like when Full House was on the air. Please welcome the super awesome, super talented Jeff Franklin. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Dave.
You're bi-coastal now. You're Miami. You're here. You got your outrageous house here up in the Hollywood Hills. Are you still trying to sell that?
I am.
I can't afford it, but I would love to. I'd love to.
I think
have
the whole
it.
cast should pitch in.
Should pitch in and move in there.
We all move in there together.
And then
Come
we have,
on. That's
I would love it. We'll get some of the crew, Property Bob, Ritter, Sean. We'll get all those guys. So, are you back and forth a lot? Are you? Because you just flew in like
yeah. I
couple
mean,
days ago, right?
I still love LA. I live in Miami, but I'm here all the time.
You're building another house in Miami too, right?
Maybe. Not sure yet.
Well, didn't you? You told me that you bought a piece of property on this crazy island.
Yeah, I have a piece of property, but
Right.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna build yet.
Because you built 2 houses here in L.A.
2 houses here in LA, 3 houses here in
3
LA,
in LA.
and 1 in San Francisco.
So you're done with that. Yes, you did. So Jeff bought the house in San Francisco, the Full House. Is that on Girard? What street is it? No,
it's on Broderick.
Broderick. The house where all the
Love
fans
us plugging that again.
Yeah. Where all the fans show up and we have our hands in cement in the backyard.
Yeah, I bought the house because they wouldn't let us go up and shoot there when we were doing Fuller House.
Right.
And I was mad. And
So you bought the house.
And then the house came up for sale, and I think I went up there with a mustache and sunglasses and a beret or something, and bought the house.
Is there any way you could get mad today and buy me a jet or
I
something?
don't see that happening.
You don't see that happening. It's got to be pretty amazing for you that none of this exists. This show, Full House Rewind, doesn't exist. My career probably doesn't exist. You created Full House and you made a major impact on people's lives. I mean, that's got to feel pretty amazing to be here today. We're sitting here and
Yeah.
we get to talk about it.
It is amazing. I mean, it's the most significant thing that's happened in my life for sure. I mean, I'm so proud of the show and so incredibly fortunate to have been a part of that. Yeah,
That's how I feel. I feel the same way.
It's been seen by over 1 billion people. That's like 1 out of every 8 or 9 people on the planet.
That's crazy.
have watched the show.
And on TikTok, there's over 5 billion hashtags about Full House on TikTok, which is crazy. That's like half of the planet. It's pretty amazing when you think of the impact and the impact that it's had on people's lives who were not only kids during the time that the show was airing in the 80s and 90s, but it's become kind of multi-generational with people, those kids grew up and now their kids are watching it. That's pretty amazing.
And I think we're almost at the point where the grandkids are watching it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. A couple of years, another Full House fan is born, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, because we were talking before we started the show here. It's been since 1987, 36 years we've known each other. And I kind of want to I wanted to have you on the very first episode of Full House Rewind because, first of all, you impacted my life so much in such a positive way with my career. And it was such an incredible experience from, being cast on the show to shooting the pilot to all those seasons, 8 seasons on ABC. It was really an amazing journey for me that keeps giving back in my life. So I probably haven't thanked you enough.
You have.
But it was truly a blast. And I kind of want to go back to the very beginning, because your original concept of the show was called House of Comics. Our listeners and our viewers are going to love to hear the story of how that changed into Full House.
House of Comics was originally supposed to be a show that wouldn't sell. I got into a dispute with Lorimar. I was there under a screenwriting deal, and they shut down their movie division, and they decided not to pay me. And so I thought that was not cool. They still were $1 billion company. So anyway, we finally worked out something where I would pitch a show for them, and if it didn't sell, then they would pay me. So
Right.
I was trying to come up with something that wouldn't sell. So
It's kind of like the producers.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now it's a great idea for a show. 3 stand-up comics play themselves, share a house, very Curb Your Enthusiasm. We just that would sell now.
You heard it first,
Yeah.
right here on Full House Rewind. So you get Chappelle, you get Bill Burr.
Yeah.
Who else are you going to have? Who's the third guy? Like
Get Sebastian. Throw
Yeah.
him in there.
Sebastian. Yeah, that's a show.
Yeah, 3 young stand-ups sharing a house. That's a show now.
That's a show.
But in those days, that didn't exist. So people were asking me questions like, well, who are the characters? Like, whoever we hire.
Right.
What are the stories? Whatever's going on in their life. Well, this is the laziest show we've ever heard. You're making up nothing.
Did you tell me one time that you came up with the idea like in the elevator on the way up there? It was
That's probably not.
we were maybe with some
exactly.
people that was a good story at the time.
Basically, I was going to go pitch House of Comics, and they called me, and Lorimar called and said, "Well, ABC is happy to meet with you, but they're really looking for a family show. So, is there any way you can turn this thing into some kind of family sitcom?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." Maybe one of
So-
the guys has some kids. They're all raising kids, and that sort of morphed slowly into Full House.
So you're putting the show together. Now they give you a green light. Who do you go after first? Was Stamos like the first guy you thought of, or who was actually cast first in your mind?
The first person to be cast was Jodie Sweetin. Miller Boyette had the show called Valerie, and
Right.
she had just done a guest shot at 4 years old where she was just adorable. They showed
And
me
brilliant.
the clip,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, this is Shirley Temple incarnate. Like, what is going on with this little girl? She's like knocking jokes out of the park. Like, okay. And so we sent Jodie the script, and she, I don't know if she read it or it was read to her, but she sat there with a cigar and her cognac and said,
With her agent and her manager letting her out of the limo.
yeah. So she said, yeah, I'll do it. And
Wow.
so Jodie was the first.
So you cast a 4-year-old first.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I remembered our first table read. We were at some hotel on Wilshire Boulevard. Do you remember that?
It was the Century Plaza Hotel.
Century Plaza.
And we had our very first table read where there's a room full of studio and network executives
Right.
and everybody who could possibly be there. They were all there to see Stamos, I think. But
They weren't there to see me,
yeah.
that's for sure. An unknown comic.
but yeah, there was probably 100 people in the room, and
Yeah.
Jodie just stole
Stole the show.
Stole the whole thing.
And I remember walking out with John. He's like, the whole show's going to be her. We can't do this. I remember, did he tell you anything after that day? Like, this little girl, is a scene stealer or anything like that? Because I
Well-
know John was always in your ear about his ideas for the show.
I learned this much later, that he was so upset about having to play second fiddle to these really funny kids that he went out and called his agent and said, this is a mistake, get me off the show. and they talked him down, and eventually he made his peace with the fact that he's working with kids and animals and being upstage
W.C.
constantly.
Fields, all over again. I remember I had met you through Gary Shandling.
I have no memory of that.
Was it at the audition?
think
Because I
so.
remember I think you knew Gary already.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
I was working on It's Gary Shandling
Gary
show
Shandling
at the
show.
time, but Gary was the person who taught me how to write sitcoms when I was 23 years old.
That's pretty amazing. I
mean,
remember
we
you
were
telling me
friends
that.
before he was a stand-up. He was a writer on Welcome Back, Kotter,
Right.
and we were in an improv class together and became friends. And he actually was the one that said to me, he goes, "Jeff, you are not that funny." Because I was in an improv
But
class.
he didn't whiny. Jeff, you're not that funny.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, how's my hair?
But he said, "Yeah, you have a funny brain. So you should be a sitcom writer. I think that's where you and taught me how to do it. Changed my whole life."
So then I remember my audition coming in, and it was Fern Champion, Pamela Basker, you, Tom Miller, and Bob Boyette. And I remember walking in, I had my pages, and I did my scene, and then I was leaving, and Tom Miller stopped me. I think I did some voices. I did Kermit the Frog. I threw some stuff in, and I was trying to show you guys what I could do, that I'm more than just an actor. I can do voices and characters. And so Tom Miller stopped me and he said, wait a second, I'd like you to read for the father. And I said, okay, give me the sides. And I went out, studied the sides for the dad. And I came back in and read that too.
You are Joey Gladstone. I mean, that was as a writer, that's a miracle day where somebody walks in and is the character that you wrote on the page. I mean, there was no question. We found our guy, we were done. And we're all excited in the room, and you can just feel it.
Right.
And we're just waiting for you to leave so we could go make an offer. And suddenly Tom is like saying, yeah, go read for the dad. And we're all looking around like eyes are rolling, like, what is this about? And, you were a good sport about it. You went out, you learned a whole nother character.
At that
came
point,
back in, got no laughs at all.
None.
As the dad, and walked back out.
Yeah, and you put your arm around me and you walked me out. And I remember thinking, okay, I didn't get this because they had me read for the father, so I must have sucked at the other one. But I remember getting laughs in the room, and it was always so hard during the audition process to try and get legitimate laughs. And I thought, well, they must not have liked me very much because, I'm reading for the dad. And then I went home and you guys had made an offer. It was pretty fast. And Brad Gray called me. Dave, they made an offer on this Full House pilot, so, give me a call. So, but I remember that day very, very clearly. You got to tell everybody what the auditions were like for the Olsen twins, because there were a bunch of kids that came in, right?
Yeah, it was baby day. It was time to try to cast the baby, and there were about 16 sets of twins.
Wow.
That were already in. There was some vacant office that we used, and so there was 32 babies in a room, and
so they're just crawling around,
and 16 moms.
Wow.
Trying to wrangle, their kids so they're not crying and, trying to make a good impression. But, I'm a bachelor, single guy. I'm not even an uncle in real life yet. I haven't touched a baby ever, except for when I was one. I think that was the last time I touched a baby. So it was bizarre. Like we were just, where are you from? Tell me about your last project. None of that was working.
Yeah.
You just got to get down on the floor.
But why them? But how did you decide?
It was just a process of elimination. Babies are crying, they're freaking out. The main thing was a stranger is in their face,
right.
Picking up strange kids. How are they going to react? If they're freaking out, if they're screaming for their mom or whatever, then you kind of think, all right, this is not somebody that is going to really flourish on a sound stage with 100 people.
Right.
So it really was just a process of elimination. And at the end of about 40 minutes, I think it was the Olsen twins and one other set of twins. And we were on the ground, trying to figure out who to go with. And, they just had these faces, and they were great with strange people.
Yeah,
they were having a blast, and those faces were just amazing.
Did Stamos even audition? Did John have to read? Because he was already on General Hospital, and then he did You Again with Jack Klugman, and he was already a TV star, right?
John Stamos,
right? Right.
So he was really the only name on my list, and we had sent him the script, and they said, okay, we'll meet,
Yeah.
And so John and I had a lunch at the Mustache Cafe, which is no longer there, but
right.
We'd never met, didn't know each other, and we just started talking about Elvis and the Beach Boys and girls and who have you dated? Who have you dated? Did we date the same people? We spent about 2 hours just talking, getting to know each other, and it was just great. Time flew by, and we never talked about the show once. And suddenly he's at valet, getting his car, about to drive off, and I'm like, hey, wait, what about the show?
Right.
Will you do it? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm in, and drove off.
Then you and I and John sat down. We met. Was it at the same place?
I think so.
I think so.
I like the chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake started my career. So then you wanted me to meet with John.
Yeah, you were already set. It wasn't an audition. It was just like, hey, I want my 2 stars to say hi and get some chemistry going. And so we all had lunch together.
So we had lunch together, and John calls you afterwards and says,
I thought comics were supposed to be funny. What's going on with this guy? You were very engaging, as you always are, but you weren't on.
I was polite.
You weren't doing voices. You weren't doing. Yeah, I think you're probably a little nervous, maybe. I don't know.
Of course I was.
But I said, this guy's hilarious. Like, okay, we're going out tomorrow night. I think we talked you into arranging to do a set like a day or two later,
went and did
right?
stand-up. Was it Comedy Magic or Comedy Store?
I think it was either the Comedy Magic Club or maybe Igby's.
It was Igby's. That's right. It was Igby's in Santa Monica. It's not there.
So we went and saw you work, and you crushed it. I know you remember this Wizard of Oz bit.
I did it on the show.
Set with,
yeah, I closed with the Wizard of Oz thing. I did all the characters.
Spinning house prop, right?
I had all that stuff. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. And then you probably got some ideas of putting that stuff into the scripts, right? Like,
yeah, we anything we could steal from your act. It meant we didn't have to write it. It was already written. Yeah, of course.
So John's character is originally named Cochrane. When did it change to Katsopolis? Was that in the second season?
Yeah, after the first season, I think John's dad had been whispering in his ear, like, what's a Cochrane? What's that?
Right.
What's, like, you're Greek.
Right.
Why aren't you playing a Greek guy? and so John said, hey, maybe we could lean into the Greek heritage. It's something else you guys could write to. Could you change my name? And somehow, I think it came from the writer's room somehow, Katsopolis name that I had never heard.
Right.
Like half Greek, half Jewish or something. I don't know. But
yeah. Well, I remember talking to you about my character's name. Was it Adam at first, or it was? No, it wasn't Joey.
He
Gladstone.
was Joey, but I'd never had a last name for Joey.
Right. And I just said to you one day, how about Gladstone? And it made you laugh. And you just said, okay. And that was it. That was how my character was.
I mean, there was a restaurant, Gladstone's, which was
right
in Malibu. And
right.
I'm like, okay, that's a cool name.
And I knew a goofy guy from Mark Ridley in Detroit at the Comedy Castle, and he had a brother-in-law, and his last name was Gladstone. And it just popped into my head, and I thought, oh, he's a goofy character. And then I said it to you, you laughed, and that became the character's names. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but John Posey. And originally we shot the whole pilot with John Posey playing the Danny Tanner character. And I had never been through something like that. And I thought after it happened, wow, this is how showbiz happens. But just kind of take us through, because we shot the pilot at Lorimar.
Initially I had 2 names on my list. I wanted Bob Saget, who I was friends with, who I had met on Bosom Buddies.
Right? He was the warm-up.
He was the audience warm-up
guy.
And that's an impossible job. You have to kill 3 hours with a microphone in your hand.
That's why I never did it.
It's impossible.
Too hard.
And I was amazed by Bob. We, as you know, can never stop speaking. So that was the perfect job for him. He just kept talking for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And he's so fast and so quick-witted and so lovable. And I just, I went up to him and I said, someday you should be on that stage. You could be a sitcom star. And I hope we get to work together. And he's like, yeah, that would be great. And I'll keep doing the warm-ups too. Which
I'll warm up my own show. Yeah.
But so it was Bob and Paul Reiser, who I had done a pilot with, and who was a really hot guy at the time.
Yeah.
And he was up for a show called My Two Dads and Full House. So I'm like, Paul, we got 3 dads, we got 3 girls versus 1 girl. This is go with the extra dad.
Right.
And anyway, so we couldn't find the guy. I mean, I'm sure you remember we had chemistry tests with every actor in town. I mean,
Me and John auditioned
Yeah.
with a ton of guys
Yeah.
playing the father.
Yeah, and it was down to the wire, and we're wondering if we shouldn't postpone the pilot to mid-season, because I didn't want to shoot the show with the wrong guy, because
Right.
that can kill your show. And John Posey sort of showed up last minute, and he had only really done a couple commercials. He was very, new.
Right.
And he did fine. He did a fine job.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And sweetheart of a guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
he was.
the show sold with him in it, and there were no red flags, no notes, no like, what about that guy? Nothing.
Right.
And then out of the blue, Bob got fired
From the CBS morning program, right?
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
And they would. I was surprised that they wouldn't let him even read for the pilot, but I think because it was ABC, CBS didn't want to do us any favors. But anyway, suddenly Bob's available and interested.
Right.
And then I had a decision to make because Bob's hilarious.
Yeah.
And John was great, but he's not a comedian. He was an actor. And, this is a comedy, and you want the three funniest guys you can get. And that cast was so magic, and I just thought if we could just get Bob in there, it would just be the
Well,
thing
and
that
then
put us over the top.
And then John and I did a screen test with Bob and on the Perfect Strangers set.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
kind of a secret chemistry test that I put together.
Yeah.
So I had something to show people, because Bob was not an actor either. He was not. He'd done a couple guest shots, but he wasn't really an actor, and he wasn't Bob Saget yet. He wasn't
Right.
super famous. He was just kind of an up-and-coming guy. So there was no heat attached to Bob Saget, and all of a sudden, I'm going around town to ABC and to Lorimar and to Miller Boyette and saying, I want hold the press. I want to reshoot the thing. I want to hire this guy, and it's expensive too.
How did you convince them to spend that kind of money?
It was almost $1 million to
Crazy.
to reshoot the pilot.
Crazy.
And to break John Posey's heart was not fun either. I mean,
Right.
sweetheart of a guy, and to recast at that point after there's pictures out, there's
Yeah.
press out.
Yeah.
It was really
It was tough.
it was
tough.
really tough, and I just
Yeah.
had this gut instinct that from the beginning that Bob could be one of those classic TV dads.
Yeah.
He could be Ward Cleaver, he could be Mike Seaver, he could be one of those guys, and I just fought for him as hard as I could.
Yeah.
I said, this is going to make the show so much better. We have to do this, and it took a lot of convincing, and they finally said, okay.
And then we reshot the pilot. We plugged Bob into all the scenes that John Posey had been in. And then
Yeah, we didn't reshoot the scenes that Danny Tanner was not in. So
Right.
if you watch the pilot, you'll see the baby, the Olsen twins are like this big in some scenes and this big in some scenes because,
They grew.
4 months later, she
Yeah.
was a lot bigger.
In that pilot, there are some really funny physical comedy gags. We had the gag where me and John are changing the diaper for the baby, which was, I can still watch that scene and it's still pretty darn funny. And then the scene where Jodie Sweetin's hanging on the drapes, going across. There was a lot of physical comedy. Did you decide that there was going to be a lot of physical gags in the show?
Well, all of that stuff was in the first draft of the script. My first job was on Laverne and Shirley, and they were Lucille Ball. They were
Physical.
the Marx Brothers. I mean, they were incredibly inventive physical comedians. So we had so much fun in those days just writing physical comedy for them because they were fearless. They'd try anything. So I love it. So
Yeah.
I put some stuff in the script, of course, not knowing if it was ever going to get made or who the cast was going to be,
Right.
if they would have any ability to do this stuff. But you guys were all like just game for anything and really funny physical comedians. It just worked out that, and we had Joel Swick directing.
Right.
Joel is also a guy who loves physical
Loves
comedy.
physical. He gave me that Dekalakapuka thing that I did in one episode. And I was
he
like,
directed my very first script at Laverne and Shirley.
he did.
First thing
and he had been around already for many years, directing a lot of sitcoms, right?
Yeah. He was a hot guy at that point.
Yeah. Now, during the pilot, I remember he got so mad at me. He came storming down from the booth onto the stage because I was goofing around, and I was like, this is the greatest job ever. I just get to goof around all the time, making people laugh. And I guess I had strayed away from the script and I was going off and doing some funny stuff and he wasn't having it. And it was right in the very beginning. And so, he came up to me and he's in my face and I can't believe it. I asked for actors and I get comedians, comics, you couldn't act your way out of a paper bag, and he's going off on me. And I'm just sitting there and everybody's kind of like, ooh, Joel Zwick is beating him up. And he stopped and he's right here. And I just looked at him and I said, what are you saying? And I could see that it cracked him because I thought, this is do or die. If I don't go up against this guy and try and challenge him right now, he's going to eat me for lunch the rest of this show. And so he laughed and he said, what I am saying is, all right, everybody go back to work. Okay, just go back to work. We shot on stage 15 at Lorimar, which was like this gigantic airplane hangar.
It could easily, you could put an airplane in there.
But
for sure.
I mean,
it was gigantic.
Gone with the Wind was shot there in the old MGM days, like Wizard of Oz. They always told us that the Yellow Brick Road was under the floor there, and they kept saying, oh, we're going to pry it up for you guys someday and show you the floor and stuff. Was it just happenstance that we ended up on that gigantic stage?
Basically, the lot was full.
Oh, okay.
It was really full, and they said that's all we have available. So we were in a little corner of this massive building.
Yeah,
and we put in trailers and bleachers and sets, and it took up like 5% of the area. And then it was just vacant building. Yeah. There was this bad echo in there that we had to deal with.
And being a newbie, I was like, well, I guess this is how it is. You're way at the other end of some gigantic stage.
Crazy.
Now, of course, every episode of Full House, had the violin scene, and tearjerker moment. At one of our table reads early on, you hired a violinist to come strolling through the reading.
I don't know who hired that.
You don't know who did that?
I have no idea.
It was pretty funny.
No.
But not everybody thought it was funny.
So, Miller Boyette, Bob and Tom, they cut their teeth, on Gary Marshall's shows, and they followed Gary Marshall's formula religiously. And Gary would always score. If there was a sweet scene at the end of the show, he would always put music underneath it. So they wanted to do the same thing on Full House. And, I was editing the first show, the pilot. I'm like, this is really powerful. Like, these actors are amazing. This is a beautiful scene that stands on its own. Yeah. We don't need to put violins underneath this scene. We don't need to tell the audience how to feel. It's very common to do that in movies, but not every sitcom has sweet little music playing at the end of every show, and so we fought about it a lot. I didn't want it, and they did, and they somehow prevailed. So that music was playing under all the scenes, and it drove me nuts, and it drove the rest of the writers nuts, and everybody made fun of it, and oh, here come the violins, and I don't know, somehow I just thought it would be funny to have some violins at the table read. So they're reading this. You guys are reading the script one week, and here comes the sweet scene at the end, and somebody who's sitting in the back pulls out a violin and starts playing the theme song live underneath the cast reading, and everybody cracked up except for Bob and Tom. You can see the steam coming out of their ears, and I'm like, who thought this would be funny? Who did this? I want to know right now. And but they knew.
Do you have a favorite episode?
I have a couple. I mean, the pilot's
really
special
it is,
to me. I mean, that was just one in a zillion, once in a lifetime. And I loved, there was one called Mad Money that where John played Elvis, and this was sort of like all these influences of my life coming together in one show, and I got to direct it, and that was, I love that one. My mom is in it. She has a bit with John's mom together, and it just meant a lot to me. And then there's a show called Hole in the Wall. I don't know if you remember that, where the girls are in Danny's bedroom and they're messing around, and they end up putting a big hole in the wall of the bedroom, and they have to figure out how to spackle it and hide it from Danny. And it just was a perfect episode, I thought. One of my favorites. And the 100th, where the twins are born,
Right.
to Jesse and Becky's kids.
Yeah.
That was a huge milestone, and,
Yeah.
and I got to direct that one too, and it was just
Yeah, we had incredible guests along the way. I mean, you think back, some of the guests, we had Mickey Rooney, Little Richard, Phyllis Diller. I mean, it was just the Beach Boys. It was so eclectic.
Yeah.
Tiffany comes on, and it was just so like such a hodgepodge. Frankie
Well,
Avalon.
we
and
tried
Annette.
for Paul Newman, for some reason we couldn't get him, but yeah, we had some fun guest stars. We had Whitman Mayo from Sanford and Son, who played Grady.
Yeah,
who was
Grady, yeah.
June Lockhart, who was Lassie's mom.
Right.
We had Frankie and Annette, and one of the funniest guest stars we had was Urkel.
Yeah.
Jaleel. His
Jaleel.
episode was great.
Yeah.
The scene with him and Stamos, teaching each other how to do a cool walk was
Right.
classic. And one of my favorites was my best friend when I was growing up, who's still one of my best friends, Rick Astor, played the stage manager in Star Search. And just having my childhood buddy that I've known since kindergarten
Yeah.
on my show was pretty cool.
Well, and we had the moms. I mean, Janice Sweeten was on an episode with Barbara.
Yep.
They came on, and it was. It truly was a family. I think back to how did we make it through some of those times. We had some really tough times. I lost my sister Sharon. Bob lost both of his sisters, Gay and Andy. You and I and John and Bob, we all lost our moms.
That was
Oh.
really freaky because all of our mothers passed away within 9 months of each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
We were just going from funeral to funeral.
Yeah.
And
I mean-
I'm just like, guys, hey, it's cool that we do everything together, but is this really necessary?
Yeah, and you think about it though, we really are a family. I mean, it's just like I know I can call you anytime for anything, and you'll be there. And it's special on so many different levels, but you never ever expect that to happen on a TV series. Because
It's
most people
pretty
just
unheard of.
you work and you split and you go your separate ways on to
you're
different
a family,
projects.
and then the project ends,
But
and
us,
then you're not. But
it's different.
This doesn't happen either. Full House doesn't happen, and that doesn't happen. This is miraculous. I mean, I love all of you guys so much. I would say more than my real family.
We love you too. I mean, it's just, I was talking earlier in your intro just about, how much basically it's a love fest, about you. And, I also have never really watched Full House. I've never really.
Really?
No, I never, my son Luke watched it, and he used to call it Daddy's Show. And I would get him to eat his broccoli and his vegetables. I would say, okay, you can watch Daddy's show. And I would hear him laughing, watching episodes when he was little. And, Dad, you just did the funniest thing. And I'm like, oh, and I would kind of peek in, but I've never really sat down and watched the show. So Full House Rewind for me is like a whole journey of watching all of these episodes over again, and it's amazing because you really get to see our family kind of come together, not just on camera, but I start remembering all of the things we did. You and John and I went to Hawaii together. We, we went to Vegas. We did so many things.
Yeah,
like
we spend, day and night together for 9 months. The season ends, and you would think we might want to take a day off.
No.
And we all go on vacation together.
Right.
It really was.
It's remarkable.
I've never heard of any show where that's happened, where people really fell in love with each other and stayed this close for this many years.
It's amazing.
It really is.
You were so patient with us, especially in those early years, because Bob would goof around. He would take over our note sessions and just do his, cut himself open and do all this bizarre stuff. And I start, as I'm reminiscing about all those shows, I had to think about those note sessions where you would just sit there and you would just laugh. And you were so patient with us. And I just thought one of these days, Jeff is going to just lose it on us. And you never did. But I mean, that had to be awful sometimes because you had to get back to the writer's room with all the notes.
It took what should have been a 15-minute note session and turned it into an hour. And that backed up our night, and we were there 45 minutes longer than we probably should have been. But
it was funny.
But I don't want to be the guy going, "Hey, stop being funny." You guys are hilarious. It's mainly you and Bob, and then John would join in now and then, but mainly he'd roll his eyes and go, "Hey, let's get out of here." and Lori was just a good sport.
Yeah, good times though, boy. And you get to think about all these moments again because you have a book coming out.
Yeah, I'm taking a shot at writing my version of the Full House story.
We've already done some interviews together.
Yeah.
We were with the girls down in where were we? Where were we in?
We were at 90s Con.
Hartford, right?
Hartford.
In Hartford, and
Yes.
you came up from Florida, and we had a great dinner, and it was really fun. And you started asking us questions like, "How's the book coming along? Do you have a title for it?"
I have a couple, but
okay.
I haven't decided yet.
You don't have to say yet. You don't have to say yet, but how's it coming along? Are you like
it's
halfway?
Really fun. I'm having fun. I'm about a third of the way through it, and I will let you know when I have a title so you can plug it for me.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, what you're doing here is incredible. Like I love this. This is just an incredible idea. I really hope
thanks.
people stick with it, and you're actually doing 192 of these things?
We want to do all 192 of them. Yes. I mean, it's a big challenge.
I mean, that's every episode.
Every single episode we want
you want to tie a show into each episode.
Absolutely. And we've got, Comet and Mr. Woodchuck.
You have no life, Dave. You have nothing else to do.
I don't. Well, I'm building a house in Michigan, which is coming along. So, that keeps me pretty busy, but I'm really passionate about this show because I know how passionate the fans are. We've changed people's lives, which is really incredible. And, that's why it's so important that you be the first guest because it all started with you. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that an idea that was in your head has, become this institution for so many kids and parents and people worldwide. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, it was a very unique show for a number of reasons. The chemistry of the cast, the love that came through the TV screen is very, and you could feel it. The message of the show that these two guys are willing to sacrifice so much, so much of their lives as young single guys to help take care of kids that aren't even their own. I mean, that's a really profound, message. The fact that these guys have this sort of oddball family that is so unique. I've never heard. In all these years, I've never heard once, well, that's so weird because I live with my best friend and my brother-in-law, and we take care of kids. And never heard that ever. But,
we did get rifled by the press when we first came out.
Oh, the reviews were
terrible. Right?
Horrible.
And the ratings were terrible the first season too, right?
Yeah, we were almost gone a couple times. Yeah. Just the survival of the show is also miraculous.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, we were almost canceled. We were able to eke out the first season. And then ABC moved us behind Who's the Boss that whole summer after
Right.
the first season. And suddenly we were on Tuesday nights and behind the number one show on ABC, and people discovered Full House, and we
And then
went
we moved back to Friday, right? Yeah.
And suddenly we were a hit.
Yeah.
We
Crazy.
were this close to being gone, and suddenly everybody's talking about Full House.
This has been just amazing to catch up, not just about the show, but with you. And, our audience is going to love some of this behind the scenes stuff. And I just want to thank you for being here. It means a lot to me that you're here on the first show, of course. And we get to do one more thing before we say goodbye, because it's time for Cut It Out.
Cut it out.
Of course, every episode of Full House had a heartfelt scene, and we have cut out a scene from the pilot that you and I are going to read together. So, Jeff, here is your script, and it truly is your script. So we're going to read the scene with Danny, DJ, and Stephanie from our very first show, the pilot. So here we go.
I'm reading.
You're reading
which role?
You're reading Danny. So I'll be DJ and Stephanie, and you're going to read.
You're gonna understand
read
why
Gary
abandoned any
Shandling said
dreams
that to
of
you.
Being an actor, yes. All going to be obvious.
Here we go. All right, ready?
Wow. What is it, honey?
It's just not fair. First I lose my mom, then grandma leaves. Now I even lose my own room. Everything keeps disappearing.
I know exactly how you feel. And I know how much you girls miss your mother, because I miss her too, very much. But you still got me,
You got me too.
and you got Michelle, and you have your Uncle Jesse and Joey. DJ, we're still a family. And now is when we really need to stick together. DJ, you and I, we go back a long time. 10 years. The 10 happiest years of my life. So look, it's up to you. Either you move back inside, or all 5 of us are moving into the garage. But nothing is going to break up this team.
I'll move back in.
I love you, Angel. You too, little ballerina.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Author.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Always brings a tear to my eye. It was so great having Jeff Franklin here for our very first episode, giving us some great Full House trivia and some pretty cool fun facts. Here's another weird fun fact. When Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were babies, they couldn't be on the set for very long because, well, they were babies. So we had a stand-in doll / baby that we would put in their place so we could position them in the scene. It looked a little something like this. Yeah, we thought we'd put her on our Full House Rewind set just to give you an idea of how weird that was. She just looks so real, doesn't she? Full House videos seem to be everywhere you look on the internet. And we like to bring them to you on Full House Rewind. So here, take a look.
I named my smart bulbs after Full House. Alexa, turn on Danny, Joey, Uncle Jesse, DJ, Stephanie, Michelle, Aunt Becky, Nikki, Alex, Kimmy, Steve, Comet, Alexa, Full House, activate.
I guess all I can say is, how many Full House fans does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's a very bright idea. Waka, waka, waka. If you got a video you'd like to send us, we'd love to hear from you. So send us the link to your video at fullhouserewind@podco.us. Somebody's at the door.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, look, it's my buddy, Mr. Woodchuck.
The show's looking great, Dave.
Well, thank you, Mr. Woodchuck.
One question, Dave.
What's that?
Is this set made of wood?
A lot of it, yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to splinter the show.
You naughty pine, get out of here.
Okay, see you, Dave.
See you, Mr. Woodchuck. You know, I sure appreciate that little chucker stopping by, which leads me to how much we appreciate you, the Full House fans. It's time for You Got It, Dude.
You got it, dude.
Throughout the show, we'd like to give one of our lucky Full House Rewind audience members something special. So I have got a Full House Cut It Out t-shirt autographed by moi. Remember to email us at fullhouserewind@podco.us. Come eligible for our next giveaway. It's like my grandma used to say, it's better to give than to receive unless you win the lottery. Wow, speaking of grandmas, it's our neighbor, Granny Tanny.
Hello, David.
Hi, Granny Tanner.
I just love this Full House Rewind thing you're doing. I've been watching it on YouTube, and I thought, those kids over there probably need a pie, so I baked you a pie.
Wow, thank you, Granny Tanny. That looks delicious.
Well, don't get everything all sticky. Make sure you wash your hands before and after. And make sure you brush your teeth.
I sure will, Granny Tanny.
And be nice to everyone.
Okay, I will.
And I love Comet, but he chased that squirrel right into my house.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
Thank you, David. You're a good boy. I've got to run. I've literally got to run in the San Francisco Marathon, so I've got to go and put on my new running shoes. Bye, David.
Bye, Granny Tanner. Which, of course, rhymes with Danny Tanner, my beloved friend and brother, Bob Saget, who left this planet much too early. I met Bob when I was an 18-year-old stand-up comic in Detroit, and we became instant friends. Bob meant a lot to everyone. He could make you laugh until you cried. He would listen to you with his heart, and then he would hug you. We're dedicating this first episode of Full House Rewind to Bob Saget, who will always be the lovable Danny Tanner to all of us. So, in the spirit of Bob Saget, we'd like to close every episode of Full House Rewind by giving all of you who need it a hug. So here it is, your Full House hug. Bring it in. Yeah, that's better. And that's our show. We'd like to thank Jeff Franklin for stopping by, and thank you for listening and watching. You are the heart and soul of Full House Rewind. Now go out there and share the love. So long. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Full House Rewind. To watch clips from the pod, go check out PodCo's YouTube channel at the link in the description. We'll see you next week.